Hey everyone, I'm the Canadian Lad, aka your personal nerd, and I just watched trailer 1 of Avengers Doomsday at 0.2 Febix speed, and boy oh boy, I've got a lot to break down. This is the first out of the 4 trailers that Marvel will release each week, and this teaser mainly focuses on Steve Rogers, who will return in Avengers Doomsday. I thought I may not be able to watch these trailers in slow motion because they're supposed to be theaters only, but as expected, trailer 1 got leaked. So you already know what time it is. It's 0.2 Febix speeding time. Now in this video, we're gonna go shot by shot through this 1 minute 25 seconds teaser, pulling out every hidden detail, every visual clue, and every little meaning Marvel is trying to tell us. But please spare me just 87 seconds to thank today's sponsor, Opera, the browser I actually use every day. So when I'm doing this slow motion movie breakdowns, I've usually got like 30 tabs open. Trailers, cast interviews, comic panels. My browser looks like the TVA timeline right before it explodes. That's why Opera's tab islands are honestly a lifesaver. I can group all my movie research tabs in one island and the wild fan theories in another, and just collapse or expand them whenever I need. It keeps my chaos contained, basically pruning my tabs without destroying the universe. And here's a feature that I can't even imagine browsing without again: Opera AI. It's built right in, completely free, no extensions, no extra accounts. I can literally say, "Hey Opera, analyze this tab," and it will summarize whatever page I'm on, which is perfect when I'm digging through long interviews or movie trivias. Last week, it even summarized a giant spreadsheet of VFX changes for me, which saved like an hour of scrolling and crying. Oh, and when I'm comparing scenes, the video pop-out feature is clutch. I can detach a clip and move it anywhere on my screen while I'm writing notes, even outside the browser. Also, Opera's player lets me control my music from the 7 streaming services available without pausing the entire universe. I can also detach it and move it wherever I want, even outside the browser as well. It even auto-pauses music the second I start a video. So if you want a browser that's actually fast, smart, and makes your tab multiverse manageable, try Opera using the link in description. Huge thanks to Opera for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back into the breakdown. The trailer opens with a wide aerial shot of a countryside where we see a male figure riding on his motorcycle going away from the camera. And as the camera glides, a windmill pops up on the left. We hear a very soft piano piece playing in the background. Still not sure whether this is the Avengers melody or something else. We cut to the next shot where we see something familiar. We see the house of Steve and Peggy from across the road. White porch railing, steps up to the entrance, and trees surrounding it. This is filmed in the exact same way as we saw at the end of Avengers Endgame. Next, we see a close-up shot of the same motorcycle pulling up to the house. We get a clearer look at this person's boots and jeans, and these are the same boots Steve Rogers wore in Endgame. The next shot is from his waist level, where he hangs his helmet on one of the handles of the motorcycle, and that's where we notice that this person is married, judging by the ring on his finger. We cut back to the house, now tighter on the front porch, and the glass panel in the door reflects the figure walking up. We then get inside the house, and we see the Captain America suit, the same one from Endgame, being put inside a case and the lid gets sealed, almost like he's putting it away for good. We cut to black, and in the next shot, we see the same male figure now holding a baby in his arms near a bright window. The baby's face is visible, but the man's face is still held back. But then the camera slowly pushes in, and the focus starts to shift. And surprise, surprise, this is Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, clean-shaven, calm and smiling, holding his baby like he's finally living the life Tony told him to get. Which means this baby is his firstborn, aka James Rogers. The clean-shaven look with a smile on his face? Man, oh man, I had a tear in my eye watching this scene, reminiscing about the good old days. We cut to black again, and a text appears on screen that says Steve Rogers. And this is exactly when the piano music in the background turns into the signature Avengers melody. Okay, let's see how can I do this without getting a copyright. Yeah, that's my way to avoid copyrights. The text then continues and it says, Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday. We then see the brand new Avengers A logo, which is now drenched in this ominous green, with these branch-like shapes wrapping around it, indicating the multiversal chaos that's about to ensue. And immediately a Doomsday clock starts counting down, with 11 months, 29 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds remaining on the clock, a countdown to the release of the film. It's ticking down with this eerie sound like an explosive is about to go off. And that's how the first official teaser for Avengers Doomsday ends. So what does it all mean? why is Steve Rogers returning for Doomsday? Who's that baby he's holding? Does it mean old Steve Rogers in Endgame has already gone through the events of Doomsday and survived? Is Steve the main lead in the film besides Doctor Doom? Is he returning as Captain America, replacing Sam Wilson? So many questions, right? Don't worry, I'll try and answer them all, and you can tell me in the comments if they make sense to you. First off, let's try to understand the timeline of it all. This whole teaser is taking place after Steve goes back, stays in the past, and starts his life with Peggy, because they've clearly got a kid now, which means this is probably in the 1950s. And there's also a version of Steve Rogers who's still frozen in the ice, meaning two Steve Rogers existing in the same timeline. One living quietly with Peggy, and another still frozen in ice waiting to be found. Hence, we see this Steve putting his uniform in a box. Now, Marvel announced a huge cast of Doomsday with that incredible 5 hours chair watch. But it's only Chris Evans who's getting an announcement like this, meaning he will play a substantial role in the film. Though I wouldn't call him a lead, because nobody is going to be the lead in this film other than Robert Downey Jr. So Steve is basically a pillar character. Now let's talk about the baby. If this kid was born in the 1950s, where is he now in the present time? Did he get any superpowers from his father, who's a once-in-a-generation super soldier, or from his mother, who literally fears no one? I think the answer to that is they will depict Steve and Peggy's kids as normal. I mean, as normal as you can be when your dad is Captain America. And I can totally see Steve making sure they grow up not knowing the full truth, or at least not living in the spotlight. Because the second the world finds out Captain America has kids, some shady organization is gonna want blood tests, research, experiments, all that nasty stuff, trying to figure out if the super soldier serum is inheritable or not. So Steve's move would be keep them hidden, keep them safe, keep them away from evil. Now in the comics, Steve has a son named James Rogers, but it's with Natasha Romanoff. But as things aren't exactly the same in the MCU, we know Natasha can never become a mother because of her history with the Red Room. And the MCU never really established any romantic connection between Steve and Nat. So the obvious choice here is Peggy Carter. And the name James Rogers could be Steve's way of giving a tribute to his lifelong brother, James Buchanan Bucky Burns. Now, is Steve Rogers gonna replace Sam Wilson as Captain America? Quite the opposite really. I truly believe there's a reason Marvel didn't write Captain America will return in Avengers Doomsday. They specifically wrote Steve Rogers. And I don't think the decision to hand over the shield to Sam Wilson was a sudden decision he took when he became old. This is something Steve would have thought about for years while living with Peggy. So there's no way he comes back now like, alright Sam, on your left, give me the shield bro. If anything, I think the Russo brothers are gonna use Steve Rogers to re-establish Sam Wilson as Captain America for future films. Now the biggest question here is why is Marvel bringing back the OG Avengers to go up against Doctor Doom? Let me explain. Marvel didn't have the luxury of making 5 movies of build-up for Doctor Doom after pivoting from Kang. So the only viable and effective way was to use stories we already know and familiar with. Something that won't require years of build-up for Doctor Doom. They can twist a story here and there, retcon some pieces here and there, and that would establish Doom instead of having to build him up from scratch. And that's exactly why Doomsday with RDJ plus Evans plus Hemsworth makes so much sense. Also, Marvel knows except for Loki season 1 and 2, nothing really touched the general audience post-Endgame. Yes, Deadpool 3, No Way Home, and the Thunderbolts did work, and that's why Marvel is only going to use those stories that worked with the audience. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The people who made Endgame don't even agree on what actually happened. See, the writers of Endgame, Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, have said Steve going back in time and living his happy life with Peggy didn't create an alternate timeline. It's only when you pluck an Infinity Stone out of a timeline that's when a branch is created. In their eyes, Steve was always there. He was always Peggy's husband. He was always the father of Peggy's 2 kids.
It's a combination of what Hulk says and what the Ancient One says. One, that if you go to the past from your present, the present becomes your past, so it's not going to change. And that the only thing that causes branch realities is removal of one of the 6 Infinity Stones. Right. So, like, if I go back in time and grab your shoe, you're not going to have a shoeless universe. It's only if you move the stones.
Right. Now that's our opinion, to be fair. Yeah. I think Joe and Anth might have a different opinion. But that's sort of where, and it kind of depends on what Marvel wants to do going forward. But it was our thought that Steve lived in his own timeline and always married Peggy, and those kids you see in Winter Soldier are his kids. And
However, Joe and Anthony Russo don't see it that way at all.
The Hulk tells you in the film, he says, you cannot affect the present by going to the past because the present has always happened. So if you go to the past, the only thing you can do is create an alternate future, right? That's what Cap does, is there's an alternate future that happens. So he would live out that life with Peggy in an alternate future, and he would have to then get back to this timeline to hand off that shield. Does that make sense?
Now, we as Marvel fans have been obsessing over this for years. We always wanted to see how Steve Rogers returned those stones, how did he live his life with Peggy, while knowing there's literally another version of himself still frozen in the ice. And when he came back to the present time, did he step in from an alternate timeline like the Russos said? Or was he in the same timeline the whole time like the writers believe? And I'm not gonna lie, I never thought we'd actually get answers to any of that. Especially not in Avengers 5, but if they're making that part of the Doomsday plot, boy, I love it already. Because here's my theory, and I want you to listen very carefully. The reason Victor Von Doom is coming after Steve is because Steve staying in the past didn't only change his life. It may have triggered a massive incursion. Like, think about it, Steve choosing to stay, choosing to build a family, that might have created a ripple effect across the multiverse. Maybe his kids existing here means some kids in another timeline never get to exist, because the universe will always course correct itself. Maybe Steve choosing to have a family with Peggy means someone else in another universe loses theirs. Basically, by choosing his happy ending, Steve accidentally broke the balance somewhere else. And that's what makes it so interesting. Can you imagine another interaction between RDJ and Chris Evans, where RDJ is now playing the outright villain? Bringing Chris Evans back as Steve Rogers and continuing a story that Endgame couldn't show opens the door to endless possibilities. Now, if Marvel does decide to go with the writer's interpretation and confirms that there were always two Steve Rogers in the main MCU timeline, that would basically imply Old Man Steve has already lived through the events of Doomsday and survived. If that really happens, then this moment from Endgame, where he refuses to answer Sam Wilson, that scene will retroactively have a whole different meaning. And it's kinda ironic that the last time RDJ played an outright villain was in the film Oppenheimer, which had an actual Doomsday clock. And now that he's about to be the greatest villain in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there's another Doomsday clock counting down. Lads, I gotta be honest, the cinematography in this 1.5 minute teaser is already better than most of the things we saw in the MCU in the last 5 years. Except for Loki, of course. The Russos never disappoint, and Doomsday will be no different. And that's it for my point of FebX speed breakdown of Avengers Doomsday Trailer 1. If reports are to be believed, Teaser 2 is supposedly Thor-centric. Teaser 3 is where we finally get to see Doctor Doom, and then Teaser 4 is set to be the big one, a more full trailer that runs closer to the 2-minute mark. Let me know what you think about this Trailer 1, and if you're excited to see Chris Evans officially coming back in Avengers Doomsday, cause I am. Now, if you like this video, then please do me a favor by hitting thumbs up, grab the subscribe button, and turn notifications on.
I'll see you lads in the next one.